I love to read a book and be absorbed in words to escape the light.
Hi everyone, so I'm going to try and do a little response to Greg's video regarding too many books, and he did it a week or so back and I promised him I'd do a response, and I felt compelled to respond primarily because I felt pity and empathy for the poor guy, because he was relaying the stress and the guilt and the compulsion that you feel with so many books being around you that you have in your to be read pile, or that you have on your wish list to buy, or that you have simply sitting on your shelves and whatnot. And I thought I will try and add my voice to this little discussion, I guess, because I'm trying to look at it from a slightly different angle. I myself, as a reader and as a person in general at large regarding any topic at all, I feel guilt very easily. It weighs down on me. It's like a million monkeys on my back and it never goes away. I do certainly have book guilt all the time. All the time I have book guilt, and I'm reminded of it every time I look at my bookshelves, which are either side of my room, so I can't escape it. I'm sort of just, I've gotten used to that. I've accepted it because it's probably always going to be that way. But I've also learned to acknowledge the fact that we must remember as readers, because this is our passion, and because I'm assuming it's probably going to be a lifelong passion, it won't just suddenly vanish or evaporate or exchange itself for some interest in something else, you have to recall that reading is a lifelong venture. It is a lifelong activity, and there is no ticking clock looming over us. I know we feel that way often, and certainly if you are a vlogger or a blogger who gets review copies of titles, for example, and then you have like certain release dates coming up, and so perhaps you're being pressured by publishers or authors or whatnot to get reviews done at a certain time, so you need to read the books and that. Where that's concerned, perhaps you do have a bit of an actual ticking clock on it, so you do have a time limit, and there is some pressure there associated with the reading of these books. But at large, overall, I think we need to remember and reassure ourselves that we do essentially, in theory, have all of our lives to read these books. And what Greg was bringing up was the fact that you also feel pressure with regards to new titles obviously coming out every year. In particular within YA, there's so many new titles being produced every year in every single genre and subgenre, because it's such a hot market at the moment and has been for several years now, and it's building and building and building, and I don't see it dying off at any point. It's resulted obviously in even more titles being produced, even more new authors coming on. It's a big deal these days to get like the new young authors, hip and happening youngsters coming into the foray, getting those who have been having some success online because of, like, you know, the success of 50 Shades and that. We can't ignore that. And it's just resulting in more and more options and more possibilities for you to pick and choose from and mark as something you want to read. So, you know, your lists are piling up everywhere and your books are piling up as a result, and perhaps you are feeling like there's just too many books and too little time. And I suppose maybe yes there is, but if we allow ourselves to be bogged down too much in what we deem to be our responsibility as a reader, what we deem to be our duty to these books and to these authors and publishing companies and all such things, then we run the risk ultimately of losing a lot of the joy of reading as an activity and as a pastime, and we run the risk of tainting it, if you will. And I myself have been guilty of this. I have felt in the past, and even recently, with things that I'm not enjoying it nearly as much, because all I'm feeling is like a responsibility and this pressure to get it read and get my review written and all that sort of thing. Even sometimes pressure from viewers, from the booktube community, from the community on Goodreads and stuff. You know, no, I'm not vilifying anybody or pointing the blame, but it's just something you might feel unconsciously. Perhaps you're sensing a shift in what people are expecting of you, what they're awaiting from you. That might be influencing how you're treating the material you read, what you select to read. So I've certainly been guilty of consciously and unconsciously tainting my own experience and enjoyment of reading. And I think that's where we just need to be careful, because however much, even if you are in some way kind of making a career, paid or unpaid, out of reading and reviewing books, it's just so essential to not lose the joy in it and not lose what should be freedom you know, you as a reader, you need to retain your sense of freedom and choice with what you do and what you don't do, and what you can read and not read at any given time. That's why I myself I've never adhered to the to be read things for each month. I've never been able to set myself like a Goodreads challenge for each year. I've never done that because I know my own limitations. I think that's important too. You need to be honest with yourself about who you are as a reader, what your habits are, that kind of thing. Just be upfront about that. And you know, if it's going to change anytime soon, if you're setting yourself goals to kind of, you know, to improve your standards, that sort of thing, that's totally fine. I myself know how I am just within me and how my life influences that as well, so I try not to give myself that kind of additional pressure. I just don't think it's worth it. And yeah, it means that ultimately I get a lot less read than everybody else each year, but at least I know I'm lessening a tiny bit of stress. I'm someone who feels stress readily. I suffer from extreme chronic anxiety, so yeah, I'm just not gonna, there's no point. It's a complete waste of my energy and my time to give myself more things to worry about, especially if it's going to be something like reading, which I want to still be enjoyable ultimately. When you're getting the sense that there's just too many books, you need to just take a moment and take a breather and just tell yourself it's okay. If you will make the time when you can. These books aren't going anywhere. That's something important to remember. Yes, things may keep piling up, but those books that are still at the bottom of that list you've not yet got to, they're not going anywhere. They won't grow legs and run away. And for as long as you want them, they will still be here. They're not leaving, so it's all right. Be honest with yourself about what kind of reader you are, what kind of reader you might want to be in the future. Set yourself realistic goals, and also just be mindful of finances and things. I've certainly aren't one to talk there. I've spent money very foolishly on new books when I have a gazillion books already unread on my shelves. But just try and, you know, try and be sensible. Spend when you can, purchase when you think you should, or when you really, really want to, and read when you can, and delineate your time as you see fit. And don't make too much of a chore of it, because at the end of the day, it should be enjoyable, and it should be something you can get passionate about without feeling the stress of it. Don't taint your reading experience, because you'll hate yourself if you do that. Something I wanted to say. So I don't know if that's really a proper response to Greg's original video, but I'll link it anyway, and let me know what you guys think. Okay, that's all. Bye.